Morning, everyone. We'll call the October 31st Commission meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Presiding Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Western Commissioner Lizzie Blue.
Present.
And Eastern Commissioner Bradley Jackson.
If you will join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. It's a great way to start out that morning. And happy Halloween to our young kids in this room and to the big kids in this room. We're all going to have a good time tonight. Okay, we have a full, and appreciate everyone being here. We are live on YouTube, as we are anytime the three commissioners are meeting, unless it's a closed session. We are live, so the public can see and hear us. If they can't watch it at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock when we have our meetings, it's recorded, and you can watch it 24 hours a day. If you like it, we'll watch it that many times. You can watch it. Okay, and today we need to do the approval of today's agenda. We need approval of the last meeting minutes. And we have a few of those. We have the 10:10 regular session. We had the 10:15 regular session. We had the 10:17 regular session. Let's
Use that one.
use that one.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a wrong one?
That was last week.
Oh, last week.
Packet that I told you was last week.
Oh, okay. I've been in the hospital a week, so we'll get back together here. So let's start over again. Let's make sure we got this right. So we've got an October 9th regular session. We've got an October 9th closed session, and we have an October 24th regular session. So I think that is correct now. And then under financials, in financials, we have chamber dues that we have now been turned in by 3 chambers. That is Clever at $300, Nix at $660, and Ozark at $1,200. We're still waiting on Sparta, and they are meeting, the board is meeting first week of November, and we'll have that number. And so we will approve those 3 numbers today. Also today, under financials, the last item is the fact that we have Melissa that's going to be the new treasurer, and she's on vacation next week, and we need someone for the commission to to be able to do business with Ozark Bank and make bank deposits and things like that. And I think you've got the forms with you today that we're going to sign off on. We've done this before when we appoint someone to take the place of someone for just a little while. And that person is Blair Mitchell, and so we really appreciate that. And I think we'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve Blair Mitchell. Is there any comment or questions before we do that?
No.
Okay.
If that's included in the consent agenda, can't we just approve the consent agenda?
Well, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, let's just do that because that was added last. After all this was already printed out. So I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
So moved.
Second the motion, sir.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is our first item today, Employee Services Director Bryant and our insurance company. If you all come forward.
Thank you.
I didn't want to give you a shock either, to realize that we are at 134% utilization of our insurance this year, so that did not do well for us when we went out to bid for insurance this year. What did save us was the UHC had a renewal, or we had a, now I'm my rate cap, and that they are honoring that on the renewal that they had presented to us, which I did email you. One of the things, I'm going to have Trevor go into more detail of where we're at and how we got here and the position that we're in. But I do want you to know that we are still negotiating some of these things. This has been, this has been an odd year because normally we have all of this, I's dotted and T's crossed before we come to you, and this year we are just continuing to get things. And so we're still actively negotiating some of that, but I'm going to let him explain this a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. My name's Trevor Crowley. I'm with Crowley Insurance and Financial. We've worked with the county for a very, very long time on the employee benefits package. Just to kind of review, when we go through this at this time, it's basically a process of anybody that wants to throw their hat in the ring at the end of the day, we listen. So we have to give a lot of data out to a lot of people, which includes your claims history for the last few years, usually 3, sometimes 4 years, updates on claims that are coming in, high claimants, rate history, all of that comes into play when we go out for bids with us. At the end of the day, the ideal situation is that you have a couple of companies or more that show interest in your group, which ensues basically some sort of a back and forth negotiating rates and so forth. The good thing is that some of that has occurred this year. But as Amber had mentioned, we have historically been able to negotiate in a rate cap, which, we manage probably thousands of group plans. It's just not a common thing to get, especially with a county or a municipality or something like that. Unfortunately, you don't have a lot of good claims experience in these sectors. It's either law enforcement, it could be fire in there, and it drives up some claims related issues. We did have a rate cap in this from last year. And if you'll remember last year, we'd had a long-standing tradition with Cox Health Plans. They're a very good partner with us, but we did make a move to United Healthcare for a number of reasons. One, it opened up a hospital system that we didn't have before, so now we have both hospital systems on our plan. It gave us an opportunity to also lower some deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums that we didn't have before, and then our rates were actually a lot better with United Healthcare. So United Healthcare took a gamble. Like Amber said, our loss ratio was in the 130th percentile, which means that basically they're paying out 30% plus more than what they took in premiums. And that's not a good recipe for anybody running a business. So from a business model, they're not liking this situation too well. So our renewal was probably going to hover more around a 40% ratio over where we are today. Our rate cap saved us. We did have a little bit of traction with Cox Health. We went back to Cox Health and said, hey, I know we chose somebody else over you last year, but what can we do this year to bring this back in? To also give you some perspective, we ran this with as many carriers as we could get our hands on. We did get a decline to quote from Aetna, Anthem Blue Cross, Cigna said no, but they may come back and give us some numbers. But at the end of the day, then we've got a third-party administrator that is saying, your reinsurance carriers, when you do that, you've got to You've got a third-party administrator, somebody that actually pays the claims. You have a reinsurance company that comes in at a certain level and picks up any excess claims that you might have. As it stands today, we've got roughly, you know, the high claimant data, this one right here. We've got 5 high claimants that hit basically 50,000 or more in claims, and a few of those are still ongoing, which presents an issue when we try to think about this as a third-party administrator. Sorry about that small print, but I mean, that's what I got. So that kind of gives you an idea of a little bit about the really big stuff that's going on. And by the way, this report was run at August the 1st. So I mean, there's still, some of these are still ongoing. You know, in a group this size, it's not unheard of to have that kind of activity, but you know, when you're at 130+%, it's not an attractive group right now. So, like Amber said, the rate cap helped us quite a bit. We did for this year. If you'll refer, did you hand that out?
Yes.
Okay. If you'll refer to this, this is going to have our rate information. So if you'll flip the page and kind of move to United Healthcare, we have 3 plan options. We have a base plan, we have a kind of a buy-up plan, and then we have, I guess, a high plan or a low deductible type option. In years past, so last year when we had Cox Health plans, we had roughly 173 people on the lowest cost option, and if you'll remember, that's the plan that the county pays 100% of. Okay, we had 173 people on that plan. We had 9 people on the middle plan, and we had 2 on the low deductible plan. Okay, because our rates were so attractive, and because we were able to negotiate down deductibles and so forth, that trend shifted quite a bit. So 173 before on the base, now we only have 73. So 100 people, 100 employees migrated to the middle and the low plan option, which, when you have a trend like that, people are going to use this more. When they've got lower deductibles and lower out-of-pocket maximums and things like that, which is probably why your utilization went up to some degree. Your high claimants didn't help, but you had more people using the plan because of the affordability. Okay.
We lowered the dependent, so we had never had it that low. So people also added dependents, so you have more people getting care as well.
Yeah. So now you have 42 people on that mid plan. You have 79 people. You had 2 before on the low deductible plan. You have 79 people on that thing. So I mean, the county did a great thing last year by making that change because it helped your employees out. But unfortunately, they're using it. So we're seeing the other end of it. Our rate cap's going to help us. I mean, it's obviously not our decision. Our job is to go out and see what else we can find. But as it stands today, with a dual hospital system, with the current plans that you have, United Healthcare plan is still going to be most likely your best bet. Cox Health did come in and give us some other options as far as rates go. And they became somewhat competitive, but on their narrow network plan, meaning you have to use Cox only. You have no option to use other providers, even outside of the area, except for Barnes-Jewish. So I'm not saying you can't do that, but I don't think that is a service to your employees, to have a narrow network versus the same rates, same type of program you have currently, having both hospitals in the system. Another thing that we have asked United Healthcare, but they were supposed to get back with us, we didn't get these in time for this meeting, was another option that Amber can look at, and that would be to keep our current plan with United Healthcare under the rate cap, but to give employees an option where they use the Cox system locally at a lower cost. So meaning pair your current offering of both Mercy and Cox under these types of programs that we have today, if you don't want to make plan changes. But then offer a network option that will be slightly less expensive, probably 5-6% lower in cost, but you have chosen to use just the Cox system. Same plan, same benefits, just a different, network. You have to funnel into one in particular. And so that could be added on as just an additional option to what you currently offer today, just at a lower price point for employees. So, but we don't have those numbers yet. We should have those, when Amber said this is a work in progress, we've been working on this thing for 2 months. It's just, it's a rough year for health coverage, not just for you guys, but we've got some, I would take your renewal and pass it around to everybody based on what we're coming back with other companies and it's a bad year for this. So, another thing I want to throw out here is that our rate cap. So with our roughly close to 130-40% loss ratio here, the initial comeback with United Healthcare was that we will not be providing a rate cap for this next year. Okay, they said no. We went back to Cox Health Plans and said, hey, would you guys offer a rate cap? And they will offer a version of a rate cap. So we used that information, took it back to United Healthcare, and United Healthcare matched it. So the rate cap, you want to go ahead and
The numbers are different. It's not.
They're not exactly the same.
Super exciting.
But if we don't have, if our loss ratio is under 100%, we're at 134 today. If it's under 100%, these are just some guarantees that United Healthcare will give us in terms of this. And you might say, well, why is this significant? We're at 134 today. Well, the significance is that they're going to try to recoup their costs next year. That's just the way that this works. And so, as long as we know a little bit ahead of time where we are and pay attention to it during the year, we're not going to get the door just completely slammed on us to try to pick up the rest of what we had lost before. So I would rather have had an across the board rate cap, but nobody's going to give that, including Cox Health Plans. So that's kind of where we are with that. Some other things that I want to note here real quickly as well. So it's important to know that in 2024, there was an affordability threshold for the employee that has to be maintained for a large employer. A large employer that has 50 or more employees. That affordability threshold is that an employee can't pay more than 8.39% of their gross income towards health premiums. So if it's more than that, it's not deemed affordable. They could go to the marketplace. There's a penalty or fine assessed to the employer if it weren't affordable. Obviously, paying 100% of a base plan is going to meet the affordability threshold, so we're not worried about that. But that number went up in terms of the employer responsibility went down, so that's at 9% this next year. So it went up, basically 75 basis points on that. So, and I know that that's not an issue here, but if it were ever an issue where the county says, well, we can't afford to pay 100% of the base plan, we've got to do some math. Got to make sure that we adhere to those kinds of things as well so that we don't miss the affordability of it. It's also important to note that all of these plans meet the guidelines of the Affordable Care Act. So if somebody were to try to go to the health marketplace and buy it on their own, and get tax credits, they're going to have to pay those back. So, we're meeting all those marks that are necessary with the health plan.
We explain that to everyone because we do a one-on-one benefit orientation, and then we do mandatory open enrollment, so people understand that because they try to go out there and then they'll be hurt later.
Yeah. So based on what we've been doing over the past couple of months with all of this stuff. I mean, it's my recommendation, looking at these things and what we've gone out to take the rate cap that you've got. There might be a little bit of room with some network options that we'll have probably ironed out here this next week. But I think from what we've heard, and the feedback that we get from employees, I mean, yes, we had a few bumps along the way. Anytime you make a move, there's always disruption with medications and things, but I think most of that's been ironed out. I think for the most part, this was a good move, at least temporarily. But I mean, this is a year-to-year thing, so we just don't know. We have to just pay attention to what's going on all the time. Next year might be a little more challenging, but we're also exploring self-funding options. But the recommendation, to us, even by the third-party administrator today, was that, hey, you've got some stuff out here medically that's hanging out here that these reinsurance carriers aren't excited about seeing today. So, I mean, ultimately, that's probably where the county needs to go. But I don't think this is the year to do it when you've got a rate cap that's at 12%.
And Amy Dent and I are we have a plan to try to get us ready to go to self-funding. I mean, it is something that we discussed. You can't do that when you have this kind of year, but it is something that we are actively trying to work towards. Because you do have more control at that point, and not to get into it, but there's other things you can do to try to keep the cost down. But we did expect, I expected this to be large this year. Anytime you do a change, anytime you open it, I expected dependents to come on. We were going to cover more people with affordability. I expected that. With the bigger claims paired with it, it's just where we are. So I do suggest that we go with United Healthcare. However, I would ask that you make the motion to go with them, but give me some leeway to continue to negotiate, because I'm very interested in seeing to see what those numbers are if we allow employees to pick a hospital plan, to see, because that's affordable for them and us. I mean, that's a win-win, but I can't ask you to do that without it being here today. Some people are not going to want it.
Okay, comments, questions?
Yeah, just, so what's the downside if we just wait till you get these last few ducks in a row and then make the decision? Is there a reason why you need that decision today?
We'd like to move forward. Otherwise, we have to come back. But you're not going to be over this. I mean, you could approve it at 13.9 going with United as the max, and then anything that we can continue to negotiate will be better. But we'd like to start moving forward for open enrollment as well.
So we would just approve it at that maximum level, knowing it's not going to be worse than that. You're not going to come back and say, we negotiated, and guess what? It cost us more.
The negative way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm okay.
And I think that's fair, and I think staying with United and having two different options for our employees, like if we were to take that away, I don't think that would be
I don't
very...
want to take it away.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good plan to hey guys, here we go. No, now we're going to take it back from you after 1 year. So I think that's going to cause more problems than it would even be worth. So.
And that's what I told him, because when he first told me, I was like, no, we're not going to do that. And then I let him continue talking.
So percentage-wise, do we have an idea of who's with Mercy percentage-wise versus Cox? Or
I don't know that, because
We really don't. I mean,
we go back and forth.
The majority of the
Yeah,
employees
okay.
are probably with Cox, because we have historically had a network that's gravitated towards Cox.
Very
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
to have most things with Cox and then one specialist at Mercy.
That's what
You can't find
Sure.
or get into another one, so. there could be
So that's
split.
kind of what I was thinking. And if you have that ability to negotiate with Cox to lower that cost down a little bit, and the majority of people are already going to Cox, then I think that's going to be beneficial to us.
But still giving them
But
the
still give the option to go to the network. I know I would not prefer to go bouncing back and forth, but I know that some people probably would. Whatever's convenient at the time, that's where I'm going to go. And So I'm good with that. If you
Yeah,
want to make that motion.
I'll just add that I do think it's extremely important for our county to continue to provide both options, Cox and Mercy, as long as we financially can, because, especially for women don't want to change OB/GYN doctors, they don't want to change pediatricians, and once you find your doctor, you don't want to change it. And so if we get new employees, if we continue to get new employees in, I think we'll get a few more that's going to be Mercy instead of Cox. I understand what you're saying. We've been Cox for a long time, so you've got a big base that's Cox. But for me, I'm not on our county insurance, but I use Mercy. So I would be one that would be a new person that's using a different hospital. So I just think that's really important. But what I understand is you all, thank you guys for so much work, and Miss Amber here, because we did have a lot of usage this year, and sometimes that usage really works out good, because if we can get our employees to come in earlier to see a doctor, you might find a cancer or something a little sooner, and you can avoid some of these high expenses. So I think it works that way too. So we'll just chalk this up to kind of an unusual year, and thank goodness we can afford that, and we'll go ahead and we'll receive a motion to go with United Healthcare and give Ms. Amber the ability to continue to negotiate and see if we can fine-tune that down a little bit to save our employees money. And when it saves employees money, it saves our county money.
I would make that motion, sir.
Okay.
We'll do
Second.
exactly that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Thank you, guys. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay.
So we have ancillary benefits as well with Guardian. We have dental, vision, life, accidental death, and long-term disability with Guardian, and that's up for renewal as well. I put that explanation in the email as well. We had high utilization on dental, and we ended up being able to negotiate. They're going to keep the rates the same on everything except for the dental, and it's very minimal to the employees. It's very minimal. I can provide you guys that sheet, but it's going to be like an automatic renewal. However, I did want you to know we will be going out to bid for that this coming summer, but it's the option to take it down. So just for letting you know that as well. I don't know if that's open.
It's voluntary in nature.
It is
so-
voluntary.
So we don't have to.
Right.
I'm just giving you a heads up that we are going to stay with that.
Okay. Again, thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Is that everything, Ms. Amber?
For now.
Okay,
I'll be back.
perfect. Thank you guys for all
Thank
that,
you.
all that work there. That's one of our biggest expenses for running this county, and we've got to make sure we take care of taxpayers' money and do it wisely, and we've got to take care of our employees. Okay, next item on the agenda is Show Me Christian County. That's the 2025 funding request. I think we have Miss Rachel here representing Show Me Christian County today. And I will start off by saying that I'm not sure how many years that, Rachel, you might know how many years that we've been having a relationship with Show Me Christian County and helping to, and you're here too.
I am too. She's been here
I didn't see you sneak in. So how many years have we actually helped fund Show Me Christian County?
So I was on the board at that time. The first round of funding was requested in 2017.
2017. And just for the audience and people that's watching online, it's a relationship used to chambers. I used to belong to chambers in the 70s, 80s, and 90s with my pharmacies, and chambers would do a lot of the stuff, or try to do stuff that this group does. Today, the chambers do very little in trying to bring business into our county. And these guys have had a record year this year. And if any of the commissioners wanted to discuss that or ask questions of what those things are, I'd be glad to spend the time doing that. But $50,000 is what Christian County has supported the 4 years. 1 year out of 4 years, I think we did $25,000. The city of Ozark, city of Nixa, other municipalities give less. City of Ozark-Nixa gives $50,000 too. You're a combination of private investors and also municipalities that invest in what you do to bring business in. And we've got, I think, a record year kind of come on in 25 too, with some major announcements that you guys are working on. So, what kind of comments or questions do we have?
Well, I don't know that I have too many. I think that it's important for people to think about and remember that a lot of larger governmental agencies will have their own economic development arm inside their agency, and if we had that here in Christian County, we would be experiencing a larger amount of investment than $50,000. So I think that's very important. While I would love to always see the private investment go up and the public investment go down a little bit, I do think we are gaining more than what we're investing back in property tax revenue, as well as sales tax revenue generated through the county. So I'm very comfortable with where we're at, though I would like to reduce the government's participation in the coming years. But that's just me trying to protect the taxpayers. But I think they're definitely getting a positive reward for this investment. So I'm more than happy to move forward with this.
Commissioner, do you have anything?
Just that I'm continue to be supportive of what they're doing. I would suggest that when you do report back to the commission, or you post information that anybody can read and so forth, there are times that I read that I think if you can be a little bit more specific about your particular involvement. Because sometimes it's general language. This happened and we came alongside and we helped them, and it's like, okay, I don't know what that means.
Right.
You held their hand and that sung Kumbaya or something. I don't know what that means. And I know you're doing well. I'm just saying, from my standpoint, I would encourage you to try to be as specific as you possibly can in terms of, we spent 40 hours on grant writing here on this or whatever. You get specific. It helps, I think, me, and I would assume it would help the others, and there'll be, Johnny Williams will be here, of course, next year. So that'd be my only suggestion, but I'm ready to go forward with this, and I'm very supportive.
I think that's a very good comment. That way, it just substantiates in our mind when taxpayers ask us, well, that's a $50,000 chunk out of our budget. And you can see that because Amy Dent, Ms. Dent, our auditor, has a transparency portal where citizens can look at that 24 hours a day and every day know what is spent out of every department, what comes in the departments every day. So very transparent, probably the best transparency portal in the state, I'd say. I mean, when I go around and go to all these meetings, there's nobody else, even Springfield. They don't have the transparency portal that we have. And the last thing I want to say is, I want to brag about you guys a little bit. These guys, Show Me Christian County, got a $1.9, maybe off just a little bit, $1.9 million grant. Okay? What that grant is going to do is give us a road in front of the Chevrolet dealership. You know how it's narrow and how it stops? It needs to go all the way down to Creative Audio, because behind Creative Audio, the man who owns that business and land, we now have a very, very strong potential to bring 3 more high-tech businesses to Christian County with 6-figure incomes for 100 or more employees. And so this is substantial, because I've always wanted younger people and older people to be able to work in Ozark and not have to drive to Springfield to make more money. So I think this is a start of something that's going to be big, okay? So I think that's really good, and there's other things that you guys have done, but I don't want to spend more time on it, but I think that's good. So I'll entertain a motion to approve $50,000 to give to Show Me Christian County.
So moved.
I second that motion, sir.
Okay, very good. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Thank you, ladies.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the list is presiding Commissioner Meade, and we're going to talk about the E911 lease. So one of the things that we discovered is that we hadn't, the lease at 911 is extremely important. We don't oversee them. They're a separate entity. They do a tremendous job. They protect us and keep us safe and get communication out. But they rent a building right next door to our HR office and Employee Services office, and we haven't really maintained checking the contract, the lease every year. And so what I was charged to do by the auditor and the HR director was to redo the lease with Mr. Fax, our county attorney, and so we called it the E911 lease and was looking for it. Basically, I can tell you, we were at about $18.20 a month rent, and we hadn't raised the rent in several years. So by using the index, the CP index that we use to calculate different things, we came up with a number that was $2,340, and I took it to $2,300 instead of $40 because it was a bigger increase over time than what their board had voted on, and so I tried to compromise just slightly. It's still more than they want to pay, but they may actually end up looking for a new building, maybe build a building in the near future, but because they need more space, not because we're charging them more rent. But that's the lease is $2,300. We added something else that our HR director told us about. We had not charged them for telephone lines. We discovered that they had 4 telephone lines and a fax line. It's costing our county $143 a month. And so actually that's the 10% that I added to it. But anyway, we're going to now start charging for those lines. And if they want to buy new telephones themselves, because they got phones when we all got phones for the county, if they want to buy their own phones, they need to get their own line. We can take that part out of this lease. But I feel comfortable with this lease that there is one mistake in it on the ending date. It starts January 8th, and they have that it ends December. No, it'll end January 7th, and we'll automatically renew unless they give us a 90-day notice ahead. It's the standard lease that Mr. Fax, our county attorney, did for us. So is there any comments or questions on that?
I have none.
Okay.
I have none either.
Okay, I would accept a motion to approve the E911 lease.
I make that motion, sir.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the cost of living adjustment. Is Amy in here? I didn't see her. She usually sits way over there in the corner and hides. Anyway, so one of the discussions that we had every year with the HR director that's here and Miss Amy, the auditor, is employees' compensation benefits. And basically we have a matrix that we've been on 2 years now. Is that 2 years we've done a matrix? For raises?
It's not for raises, it's a matrix. Every single position that we have is in a matrix with a minimum and a maximum.
Yeah. Okay.
And steps in between. So everybody is, we built it 3 years ago, it's been fully in effect for 2 years.
Yeah, so we do have a matrix, and that determines when people get raises and things like that. Okay, but there's another part of compensation, and that's COLA, the cost of living. And most businesses, they keep those separate. And so, again, using the CPI, what the federal government uses, even like to figure out Social Security benefits for all the people that's on Social Security. The CPI is calculated this year by the federal government at 2.4. There was a time a few months ago when we felt like there was not going to be a possibility to give employees a CPI cost of living raise or a raise from the matrix, and it just didn't look like we had enough money. Just to let you know, sales tax is extremely important because 80% of our total budget is derived from sales tax. Sales tax has been down. Last year it was down. We budgeted 4%, we got 3%. This year we budgeted 3%, and we were under 3% for 6 months. And we now have had an upturn for 3 months. And I think this last quarter, unless the weather gets bad out there and something happens that we're not expecting, we should continue to build on our sales tax. But that being said, we appreciate everybody buying local. You don't know how bad it hurts for people to receive services here that we want to give you here, but if we can't afford to give you services here and have to reduce them because we don't have enough money coming in. And a lot of that's because of online sales, and we can't blame people for buying online, but we have to protect our county and our businesses here. So Ms. Dent says that she feels comfortable with a 2.5% cost of living for our employees this year. I asked her 3, and she is going to do a calculation on what that would cost. And if we look at that number later on, we will. I'm asking to approve this 2.5% today, but I'm also allowing time for Ms. Dent to calculate what another 0.5% would be. Surprisingly enough, it could be a $500,000 hit. And so we have to make sure that we're not overspending what this county has. We're always going to be on the careful side, okay? So any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda, or approve the 2.5% cost of living.
I have no further questions, and I'd make the motion to approve the 2.5% COLA.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
Okay, great. We've got a motion and a second to approve the cost of living for 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. The next item is the holiday schedule for 2025, and it could be subject to change, and that's only because this year Christmas ends up on Thursday, and I'll just probably bet that the courts will not be in session on Friday, the 26th.
You mean for 2025? You mean for 2025? This year's
What did I say?
Christmas is on Wednesday. That's what she was asking. I didn't
Oh,
hear
okay,
her.
okay, all right. And so what we've done in the past when I've seen holidays is if the holiday ended up on Thursday, we gave our employees an extra day. So you all have a copy of the calendar, and so that is a benefit that we offer our employees, and I think it's a reasonable benefit. And so Judge Johnson is watching, and if she gets the okay to close the courts, then the county would close too. Yeah.
If you're looking at the list from the courts, the commission usually adds the day after Thanksgiving, and that's not on there.
It's not.
No.
And I would suggest that you don't make it subject to change and you just approve, and then you can always add on one later.
That's what I really meant to say, is just like what you're doing and what Amy's doing on the cost of living, we will approve the budget, and it may we may have to modify it, we can add that extra
You can
day.
always add, but if you put subject to change, people might think they might not
Okay.
get it.
Okay, all right.
So just a question with regards to this. This is the Supreme Court's, say again.
We need to create ours because there's
Yes.
a template.
Yeah, the Supreme Court, this is their days off. We don't have to mirror their days off. But there are certain days that we do have to observe, correct?
For court purposes, if they're off, because the sheriff's office obviously has to have, security and things. So we have mirrored theirs every year except for added and the day after Thanksgiving. That's the only thing we've done differently. But typically there's a conversation and then she'll create the form and then you'll sign it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what
Well,
are you saying about the day after Thanksgiving? Are you saying we ought not to put that on there now and add it later? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that you should approve it and then give her the direction to create that, what we always do.
Sure. And so if we wanted to do today to add the day after Christmas, we can do that.
Yeah, just,
Regardless
you don't
of,
have anything to sign.
regardless of what the courts are doing or not doing, we can make that decision. If the courts are in session, can we still close our offices?
You can, but that'll go into, the sheriff will have to still provide, he could explain it better, but he still has to, if a judge is here, he still has to provide.
Sure.
But he's done it every year.
What I'm wanting to avoid, of course, and it sounds like you've answered it, I don't want to put it in our list that we'll make up. Here's our thing, and it's the day after Christmas is on there, and then come up to November and say, sorry, courts are doing such and such, and we got to stay in session.
You can still close it, and if something like that would happen, then we would have certain parties that would have to come in, but we could make it right with them.
Okay.
They get to bank it.
And I think we do our own, which would include the days that the court doesn't, includes the day after Thanksgiving, the day after Christmas.
But to answer your question, you don't have to.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking, because I know that it may be easier to just mirror the court's schedule. But there are a lot of government agencies that don't follow these days off. Schools are in session on Columbus Day, and the city of Ozark's open on Columbus Day. I'm just using some examples. So we do give a great benefit to our employees, giving them some of these extra days off.
It's a huge recruitment thing, too.
It most certainly is, and I just want to make sure that people understand that that is part of a retention tool.
It is.
To offer some of those days off mixed in there. For the most part, the workload still is going to be accomplished, so it's not like we're not getting things done on behalf of our citizens. But yeah, so with regards to this, we could wait and have our own schedule, or we could just go ahead and adopt this and add in those other 2 days.
Yeah, I honestly, I apologize. Since I've been gone this last week, we started out with our own calendar, so I'm not sure why we're doing this. So these are completely different calendars. Okay, I'm beginning to figure this out. So I was gone for a week, and we made a calendar with our county, but we always usually try to intertwine and connect our two calendars together. For Judge Johnson and the other judges, they can't change their schedule unless the Supreme Court tells them what they can do. We don't have to wait on the Supreme Court, but it is nice for our calendar, county calendar, and the court calendar to match, because we do have county employees and state employees working over there in the two buildings where the courts are, and sheriff's deputies and different people. And so it's nice if we can have all of our county employees off at the same time. But we'll work that out. So I would suggest that we just accept this Supreme Court calendar for our record, and we come back next week with our own calendar. Yeah, we can, because that's what I had in my records, but I didn't. I didn't get to look at this.
So just for my sake, what would be the downside of just waiting till next week to approve ours?
We could.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We'll just accept theirs for our record, and then we'll come back with our own schedule next week
I'm okay
for
with
approval.
that.
Yeah, I don't think we have to make an action to say we accept their schedule, do we?
No.
So,
Just-
forget it.
It's just accepting it.
Yeah.
No motion, no
Okay, all right,
action.
I'm good with that. So next week, we can come back with the county's holiday schedule, which quite frankly is what we've done as far as I can remember the 8 years that I've been here. We've always done our own calendar. We consulted theirs, we tried to do what we could, but we didn't. We definitely had things on there. And once in a great while, the governor will shut down state offices at noon on a certain day or whatever, and sometimes we follow that even at a later time. But so I've just, my recommendation, I think, along with Mr. Jackson's, is that we just bring our own next week and we approve our own without direct reference to the state.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. The only thing I want to point out is we may not have, but maybe if this young lady here could take minutes next week, Miss Maddie cannot take minutes next week. So we're having planning and zoning, and it's going to be a longer session next week here. And but we typically have one on Thursday. If we don't, we usually try and make it up on a Tuesday. So, but in the next meeting, commission meeting, we definitely can do that.
Okay.
Okay? All right, I'll accept a motion then. Oh, you don't want a motion?
I don't think we have to make a
Okay, we don't need
motion
to
until
make a
we-
motion to wait. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay. The next item on the list is the board trustee. Unfortunately, we had a board of trustee resign, and we're going to have to replace her. And so I'm going to let Commissioner Jackson, we have not talked, but we need to, here's what we got to do. We have to figure out when we can send notices out as quickly as we can. I'd like to get this completed before the end of this year and get them a full board of trustees again. Send notices out several places, as many places as we can come up with, and get the most qualified person. This person will be over at Nixa, and then we will need to figure out our time to do interviews and the time that we'll have to vote and tabulate the information, and then to have a meeting to announce the person that has been chosen and notify the library. You have a timeline that...
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So just putting some stuff together, wanting to tackle this as quickly as possible, but make sure we give it all the right effort. My suggestion would be to open up applications on Monday the 4th of November, close them on the 18th of November, schedule interviews to happen between the 25th of November and December 6th, and then the announcement or selection to happen at our meeting on the 12th. It's a very short window for the library, but the library has their final meeting of the year on the 16th, so it would theoretically only have an absence of one meeting for that vacated position. And I think it's not a hugely aggressive timeline, but I think we can get the information out, we can get the website changed, we can get Facebook changed, or notification put out. Whether or not we utilize the newspaper, I don't know if that's something that we could or should do. Maybe the newspaper would put it as one of the last tasks of Ms. Greenwood's career at the Christian County paper, but maybe a little news article on the front page above the fold.
Brandy, what was
Come on.
Can't make an
what
improvement.
was the date of the actual vote by this commission?
That would be at our 12/12/24.
12/12/24. Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we get the information out there, we get as many applicants as possible, but I don't know that it requires us to necessarily make a newspaper posting, paid advertised posting. And I'm sure the library will do a lot of help getting information out.
Yeah, they would.
And so I think it's the least we can do to get that information out to everybody in a timely fashion so that we can schedule interviews. Because I would suspect that being a metro area, since this vacated position is the Nixa community, there would be more than what we experienced in the Clever community as far as
Sure.
applications coming in. So we want to make sure that we give enough time to get those interviews scheduled to process everybody. Because at the last, not this year, but last year when we selected and interviewed people, the majority of them were from the Ozark community versus the Highlandville communities.
Are we, Commissioner, are we going to do the interviews the same way we've done them the last 2 times? We're going to interview them individually? Is that what you all want to do?
I think that's the easiest way to protect their privacy is, because if the 3 of us interview them publicly, then we're interviewing them on television in front of everybody, and that might make them a little bit more nervous to come in and speak with us versus being able to come in one-on-one. So.
I understand the Sunshine Law states if there's 2 of us, we have a quorum, and so it really makes it difficult trying to discuss things and stuff like that. So it takes, unfortunately, for that the person that's being interviewed, they've got to do it 3 times. But hopefully maybe that'll help them too, because they'll get a hang of that, and so they interview 3 times, and we'll do our best to pick the right person. This is going to be a very important position. I just wish we hadn't have a resignation we have to deal with, but that's what it is, and so we know everything else. So basically, we're going to do the same thing that we've done. When we interview them individually, we're going to have our own information. We're going to turn it into our executive administrative assistant, and she's going to tabulate. So you and I, the 3 of us, aren't going to be talking about how we voted. She's going to know how we voted and or what we picked, who we picked, and everything like that. So isn't that going to be the same way?
I believe that would be a perfect scenario to work with him.
All right. So I agree with your timeline and things like that. We've got a lot of things going on with the budget and everything every week, and stuff going on with holidays and stuff, but we will make this work. It's very important to get the right person in the library system. Library is very important, and we're going to continue to work until we get it going smooth. Okay? Do we need to vote on that? Just our discussion is what we need.
No, I don't think we need any action.
All right, very good. The next item is, and I think this is something that you wanted to bring up, Commissioner Jackson, during election day on the courthouse lawns. What did you want to talk about?
So this year being a different scenario than what we've seen in the past with absentee voting, the no excuse absentee voting has brought a lot of people into the courthouse, and so it's brought up a lot of conversation with regards to early on in the week. Last week we had a concerned citizen that felt electioneering was happening inside the courthouse with regards to there was a League of Women Voters survey book laying in the courthouse in a couple of different locations. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that just puts information out, but this individual felt like it didn't represent all the views appropriately, and I don't necessarily agree with that person's standpoint with regards to their voter guide, but then it brought up several different questions. I think that the clerk and I have talked about this several times about, and as well as the county attorney, we do not utilize her door as the door. It's the front door of the courthouse that we use. So now you see there's no electioneering signs set outside that door each day, which then brought into the question, well, can I electioneer normally like I would at a polling location, which is a lot of signs stuck in the ground? And so that was the question I think that we at some point need to discuss and create in our facilities manual that, you know, we're not an open public forum, meaning that we don't have campaign signs stuck in the ground all the time. I think that off the advice of the attorney, it's perfectly legitimate that an individual could stand on the courthouse lawn past the 25-foot mark and hold a sign and greet people like you would see on election day. But the big thing is whether or not we would allow them to stick signs in the ground, which I would discourage simply for the fact that we do have fiber optic lines running in the ground. We do have electrical conduits running in the ground, and we don't want to damage any of those things. Because once you allow one sign, what stops the method in which they put the sign in the ground? Is it normal stick in the ground signs, or is it T-posts in the ground? And then you have the potential cause for damage to the property. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to your guys' attention, that this was a bit of a concern for several people in the community, because once the one person registered a complaint, a couple others did as well. To avoid any confusion, I've looked around the building each day as I've been in and out, and I have found some electioneering materials laying in different spots, both for and opposed to different issues, and we've collected those up and disposed of them, since technically by law they cannot be in the building. So I think we could potentially add to that in our language that even voter guides might be deemed as one way or another, and maybe we designate a place like the bulletin board for a copy for people's review. But that would be a discussion that we need to have at some time. Render a decision.
I think in most instances, you could find a web address for that same document where a person could go online and read it at their leisure. In fact, there's a lot of ballot, PDF is one of them, for example. There's a lot of places you can go to find detailed explanations of the various things and so forth, rather than us posting it in there. And I'm like you, it doesn't bother me. I took a copy of it home because it gave some valuable information. I did not feel like I was being lobbied for one thing or the other particularly, but I know other people can see that differently. So I think we're better off keeping printed material out, even off the bulletin board. That's not a big bulletin board.
No,
we could easily cover it completely with other things, and there's things that belong on there, you know. So, but we're not. I'm assuming we're not really going to do much different this year. It's upon us. So.
Yeah, we just.
It's honest. I just think that it's one of those things that we need to have in place for years.
I agree. Yeah.
Plan and action. You know, and to me, I think it's okay. The gentleman asked me, so can I come down and electioneer on the courthouse lawn? And I said, I don't have a problem with you coming and sitting in a lawn chair and talking to people. I don't have that problem, but I don't render that decision solely. I mean, it's a decision that the three of us have to make. And in that point in time, I don't know that they're causing any harm sitting in a lawn chair talking to people. It, to me, gets to the point with, now do we allow signs stuck in the ground that are going to be potentially up for, you know, absentee voting is a 6-week period. You know, no excuse absentee is a 2-week period. Do you allow that? And
I think that's a great thing to say, because there are things that's going to have to be changed even the next presidential election year, because nobody, I think, was really prepared for the number of people that were going to come during that time, and I'm glad we were able to do that. But I think that's the perfect time to revisit any kind of a document that would give parameters. You can do it on this day, but you can't do it for 25 days in a row, or I don't know, or do it for all of them. That's not a concern. It's just that's the time to do it, because things are changing.
And I think the clerk would advise that in the next presidential election, she's going to want to have something off-site. This building's not conducive to having 10,000 people over the course of 2 weeks come in to vote. It's very crowded. Their steps are moderately dangerous. You know, the button's falling off the elevator from being pushed so many times. And in Greene County, they do have off-site election facilities, and at those facilities, they do have an area where the signs can be stuck in the ground. So I think there's things that we can work towards,
Right.
but we need to set a vision and a plan of action so that when it comes 4 years from now, we're not scrambling
We'll be
trying to
ready.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Aren't they opening up the OC in Ozark?
No, the Nixa X
Or
Center,
Nick's X Center, but not the Ozark?
no, everything for Ozark is here in this.
Yeah, so one of the things I know that the three of us will actually, we'll give you a pardon, you're not going to have to come back and meet, but really, we need to work with the clerk, and we need to figure this out and make it as good as we can
Right.
for everybody, and so I think we've got time to do that. And I'll just say one thing about the League of Women Voters. I actually appreciate what they do. I know it's a lot of hard work compiling all that information. And as many elections as I've been involved in, everyone that's campaigning, if you are a candidate for a primary, for a general election, you are going to have your name in there and be interviewed, you get to send the information to them, and they will print it in your picture. So it's up to you, whether, no matter what party you are, if you want to be involved, you can be involved. If you don't want to, they'll have a blank space with your name. That's all they're going to have, because they don't have the information you gave them. So I'm not a problem. I have no problem. In fact, this office, and I'll take responsibility because I handed out most of them. I put them in our area by our screen out there. I probably gave out most of them just by I put them right out there. I didn't even think about somebody being offended, and they all disappeared. They're gone. They gave us 3 bundles and they're gone. And there's no signs around or anything else. You just take it if you want one. But I'm okay with doing, like you said, you can either do it or not do it. But now we'll talk about it later. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought it up, because I want to make sure that we do it as right as we can at the next major election. Okay. All right. The next thing on the agenda is communications. Do you guys have any communications that you want to give? I've got a couple of things I want to just make a note of. Do you have anything?
I have nothing, no, sir.
Okay. Just want to kind of point out that the next week is a little bit unusual, because we normally have a meeting on Thursday. We might have one if we find someone to do the agenda for us. A very important job to get the minutes right and stuff like that. But right now, as it stands, on November the 7th, we will have a planning and zoning. There's several cases, and there's one that's going to be contested with an attorney and different people in here in this room. So it will take a little bit longer next week. And we could if we don't have it next Thursday, and if we don't have an emergency one, then we would probably move it back to the following Tuesday and do it on Tuesday. But we can do it on Thursday. So it's whatever the group wants to do. And I wanted to make an announcement. I've already talked to HR director and different people in this building, and I was asked to secure the building grounds for next Monday, and I want to make sure we bring this out in light that we don't have reservations for the gazebo or the grounds anymore like we used to. It's first come, first serve. We need to know what's going on here in the commission office, and we can't have surprises out there, but it's first come, first serve. You got to come to the commission office and let us know what's going on. So next Monday at 5:30, Senator Hawley will be out there, and they are going to me. I have nothing to do with their plans. I'm just relaying plans. They're going to be out on the concrete slab right over there behind me, and he will be speaking. And he will, there may be, I don't know if there's another candidate that's on his bus or not, but we allowed him to be here on the very first day of his campaign. This is where he lives, here in Ozark, Missouri, and he wanted to start his campaign and end his campaign in his hometown. This is his hometown, and he's got family members in this town. So I'm not endorsing him over anybody else. I'm just saying that was first come, first served. Anybody else could have done the same thing. So Brad Cole, Ozark Police, everybody's already been informed. They know what they'll be doing, and it will be a large crowd. And patriotic, I think it's a great thing for, as I told the mom and these two young girls here, it just makes you feel good. I don't care what party you are. It makes you feel good to do something like that. So just wanted to announce that. Other than that, I think that I'm tired of
I got
talking.
a question.
So, yes.
Monday, are they going to block off that pad all day?
No, no.
Because we got to use it to deliver.
No, I'm glad you said that. No, so they're not going to start till around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
And we're open till 5 that day, the clerk's
Okay.
office.
They'll put a few things in at 4:30, but he's not going to be here until 5:30 or probably maybe even 6. So, but, yeah. Okay. No, I asked him not to start doing much until after 4:30. I didn't know it was till 5, but that's great. We'll make sure that we work with that. Richard, our maintenance man, is going to help me that day, and will be very helpful in making sure we get that all done. Okay? Anything else? Okay. We will adjourn our regular session.